All right, Jeremy, man, I want to say, dude, I've been looking at a lot of your content lately, and dude, I don't know what it is. I know people mess with me all the time. They're going to be like, dude, you say that every freaking episode. But I always say two things, like, this is going to be a really good episode. And at the end, like, that was the best episode ever. But I think we get better and better and better. And the reason why is because of amazing people with the skill set, like such as yourself, dude. You're like the dream, the epitome of what I would consider, like, anybody when they say the American dream, man, that would be you, man. I love man. Your freaking content, man. I just wanted to affirm, like, give you that affirmation, man.
Oh, thanks, man. It's funny because I feel like, so I've done, we're almost at 1,100 interviews, like, as a host. Yeah. And like, I feel like every time I get done, my favorite interview is like the one I just did. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, that was the best interview I ever did. And then, like, you know, you do another one, you're like, oh my God, that was the best interview I ever did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the beauty of podcasting. And yeah, I was excited to see that you're doing something, and you sounds like I know you got a blueprint because you're teaching people how to do it all over the world now. You got a blueprint for a couple of things, and that's creating, I would say, influencers, and also figuring out a way to monetize a podcast. People ask me that all the freaking time. So I was just curious, man. How did you get in this freaking business? Because you went to Oxford, right?
Yeah, so it's weird because it's like I like saying I'd like to say I had it planned out, but I did not at all. You know what I mean? Like, so I have my master's in ancient history. I studied how the Roman emperor convinced people it was God, and then the blueprint they used for kind of like the next 400 years to do that. Like, there aren't people like lining up to get jobs for that. Like, oh, we need another Roman emperor cult worship specialist. I'm your guy. So I ended up actually teaching at a high school for a couple years, at a grad school. And like, it was a private school, first of all. So like, you don't need like any teaching experience. They just kind of put you in the room with 40 kids. And like, you know, like, I'm 35 and I look like I'm 12 now. So you can imagine what I look like at 24. So like, these kids just rode me, dude, like 9 hours a day. And like, I was just so fried every single day. And then when I was 25, my mom ended up having a really bad stroke. And it made me look at like a lot of the different things I'm doing in my life. And I'm like, well, shoot, man, do I want to be doing this the rest of my life? And I tried just about anything, right? You could have showed me how to like sell garbage on Etsy and I would have been in. So I was like, I did network marketing. I did online marketing. I did life insurance. I did Amazon private labeling, but I left my promo code to get my product for $1 on Amazon. So I went broke in like an hour. Like, I tried everything, but I've been a podcast fan since like 2007, 2008. I'm a big Adam Curry fan. Adam Curry is actually the podfather, the guy that invented podcasting. So I, listened to Daily Source Code back in the day, listened to No Agenda. And for me, like, I started a podcast literally because I failed at everything. I'm like, all right, well, let's try this podcasting thing. And that was, literally how it happened for me. Just, I've been a fan for a really, really long time. So in 2015, I ended up starting my own show.
Oh, wow. Wow. So that's incredible, because me and you, we kind of parallel, dude. It's the same. For me, man, I called my wife one day. I had just reached to what was supposed to be my epitome of success. And that was, I was the vice president. Well, I was the director of safety en route to being the vice president. I was just so freaking miserable. And I didn't want to do that. I had family members, people that I was taking care of. They were getting sick, and I wanted to be home and create a space to do that. I became a speaker, and then the pandemic hit, and then I started the podcast just because I wanted to talk to cool people like you to kind of keep me up through it. Did you get into? I got into it because I was just like, I need to still keep making content.
Yeah.
Didn't know where it was going, but did you get into it because was it just to talk, or was it like, you're like, man, this is like, I'm on the entrepreneur kind of grind right now?
No, like, I thought it was all over, man. I like, that was kind of like, well, I guess I can do, like, so I had a really weird podcasting beginning, right? Like, I tried all those different things that didn't work, and I was working at a friend's marketing firm. I had taught myself how to build websites and do coding from like watching YouTube videos and like reading Reddit posts. So I was doing that at the time. So I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was making enough to pay my bills and stuff like that. And the reason I started the podcast was literally because I just wanted like an artistic outlet. That was it. Like there wasn't like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do whatever. And I will tell you, Tony, like even my first like 6 months in podcasting, I had this huge resistance to like making any money. Like, please don't anyone pay me. I can't make money off my art. I will ruin my art if I make money off my art, which is wild because like, we have 17 employees and then, I make a full-time living off of, my art now specifically. But I had this big hesitation of like, no, this is my passion project. I can't ruin it. I can't spoil it. And, like within 6 months, people are like, please help me. Like I want help with what you're doing. I'm like, no. I don't have a business. Like I build websites. Like I can't do that. And so I kind of kicking and screaming became an entrepreneur rather than like, yes, I'm going to start this thing. It's going to be perfect. And then we're going to get 1,000 of them and we're going to sell it. And there wasn't any plan, man. There was like, I was trying hard not to make money.
Oh, dude, there's so much joy.
It felt dirty initially, like, I can't make money.
No, this is crazy because like it's the same thing. Like for the longest with me, it wasn't necessarily that like I didn't want to get paid from it. I like money, but it was like I felt almost like I was never ready or never like this little silly thing that I call a podcast that I just talk to freaking people that I look up to. Like nobody's gonna find any value of that. And then boom, make one post and people are like, yeah, I would love to freaking sponsor it. We have a lot of people that reach out to this show and ask us about sponsorships and stuff like that. For the folks that have a podcast, how do you go about coming up with numbers as far as giving to people like, hey, this is what I'm going to charge? Because I know there's a lot of different methodologies.
So that's tough, man, because like, for most people, like 95% of podcasts get 100 downloads or less. So that's 95%. So there's only like 5% of people that have like something viable they can make money off. And it's not to like, invalidate those other people. Like they're doing cool stuff, but it's really hard to monetize like kind of past a certain
ain't
level.
One of them. I said, you ain't one of them.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's, but you know what? We don't even use traditional advertising in my show either, because like, yes, I'm doing great, but I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not Lewis Howes. I'm not some of these people. I'm just a dude that's lucky enough to talk to people. And like there's a couple different models, right? So the traditional model in advertising is what's called the CPM. CPM or cost per mil. Mil is Latin for 1,000. So the way it typically works is, you get a dollar amount per 1,000. So the typical, I think, going rate is like $25. So let's say you get 1,000 listens to an episode, you get $25. Not, nothing to really write home about. You have to do enough episodes to be able to pay your hosting with that amount, right? Like, so it's not a big deal. So the thing I usually tell people, if you're under 1,000 listens an episode, and even if you're around 1,000 listens an episode, you're going to have more benefit doing two different things. One of which is if you already have a business, great, because your podcast is kind of that thing to create that know, like, and trust factor for your business, right? So people know you, like, and trust you. And at the same time, you can do high level networking with cool people, right? Like if we didn't have podcasts, like, you're on, I think you're in like the West Coast, right? So like,
yeah.
The chances of you and I meeting without a podcast are
slim to none.
Yeah, slim to none, man. Unless like somehow we ran into each other at an airport or something. So it's like the networking you get to do is incredible. Like, so that's one part of it. And that can actually help build your business. That's one side of it. And to me, that is the best way to do it. There's another thing you can do if you don't have a business. And this is what I did early on. Because as I mentioned, like, my first 6 months, I didn't want to make money. After that, I'm like, okay, well, I got to at least pay my hosting. So the things that I started without early on was affiliate offers. Because affiliate offers are great, because what you can do is you can actually promote things you already like, enjoy, and use, right? So like I promote different products I use. We've used the same payroll company for 5 years, and they're called Gusto, and they actually pay you just to give people get people into their program. Or I use a lot of audiobooks. So typically I'm reading 1, maybe 2 a month. And Audible gives you $15 for every free audiobook you give away.
Dude, I
give away
a
free audiobook, because by that, if somebody buys an Audible membership, right, they're already profitable a month too, because they charge $15 a month for an Audible membership. So they look at it and they say, okay, by the amount of churn we have, if we give away this many free ones, we're already profitable by month 2 or month 3. Who cares? So I'm telling people like what book I'm reading. I'm like, you can go get it for free if you go to blah, 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 blah.com and they go grab an audiobook. We've given out thousands of audiobooks that way. So like you can look at things you already use and recommend them to your audience. And to me, that's a really great deal because you're going to make a commission on that, right? And if you don't have a business or maybe you want to add extra revenue to your business, like that's a great way to do it. Like that's worked for us.
Dude, that's crazy. You mean to tell me I can actually make money off of the audio? Man, I read so many.
That is my favorite affiliate program because I think it's like, they have different levels too. So it's like, I think I think this average they give out's like $10 for every free membership. But like once you hit a certain like kind of number, they'll give you $15 per membership, right? Like I don't know what the exact reward number is, but like, dude, it's like, this month, everybody, I'm reading Washington by Ken Chertow about first President George Washington, or, I'm reading a book right now. Like I tell them like, I'm reading a book about Elon Musk. So I'll talk about the book and like what I like about the book, and people go buy the book. And then I get, so it's cool, man.
Oh man. Have you read, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino?
So that is on my bookshelf in the physical version, and I have not read it yet. I find if it's not an audio, right now it's weird because I was that guy that was always sitting around with a book. But like as life's gotten busier and the business is built and everything else, I'm kind of more on an audio kick at the moment.
You got all the badges on Audible.
Dude, I read which is wild because my wife gives me a hard time about like I collect books. So I have like weird and odd books that I've gotten all over the world. Like I have a copy of War and Peace that was published in 1938. Significant because it's the year that the Second World War started. But like so I have all these books. My wife's like, with all the audiobooks you listen to, you think we can like stop buying these, Yeah,
dude. Hey, you might be my long lost twin, dude. No BS, man. I have David Meltzer's book, Connected to Goodness. He sent me a copy of it.
Yeah,
I have the book. I've never read the book. I use it to highlight it and stuff like that when I can't listen to it. But I've listened to it 3 or 4 times. I've listened to a few David Goggins books 3 or 4 times. Actually have the book. But that's weird. It's good to know that I'm in good company. I
have a couple books that I read once a year too, because you kind of get like, every year your life changes. You get a little bit different every year and everything. One that I read every year, and it's quite a commitment. So the actual book is 1,400 pages. I forget how many hours the audiobook is, but that's Atlas Shrugged. Read that every year. A much easier read, a much quicker read, because I think it's like super short, is The Art of War. And that's a really, really interesting one too. Cause like, your life changes every year and you kind of get different things out of it depending on what's going on in your life,
Yeah. Now that's good stuff. Have you read, I'm sure you've read .com Secrets, huh?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty good book. Dude, I'll have to send you my list and see what's on yours, man. I would love to know kind of the books that drive you. Cause I'm a firm believer in, the secret and the power in books. I get so many freaking people in my DMs asking me crazy questions where I'm just like, I send them the book and then a couple months later, I'm like, hey, did you read the book? And then they probably won't even see it, but then they're right back and ask me another question. I'm like, dude, it's in the freaking book that I just sent you. What books do you think are pivotal, not just for podcasters, but emerging entrepreneurs, something that you would just be like, dude, this really freaking helped me out?
Well, you know what's interesting? So my strategy has changed. I'm actually like pulling up my Audible list right now so I can like kind of like reference this here.
I was doing the same thing, man.
So I'm like, hold on, let me find my purchase history here. But like I find that like what I went for earlier on versus what I go for now is like really, really different. So like there were a couple books early on that were game changers for me, because I think like in the beginning, you can kind of become like a junkie of like personal development and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I need this one, I need that one. And like, this is going to be a book that changed my life. Like if I had to sum it up in everything, man, there were literally just 2 books that were a big deal for me. The first being the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, and understanding the amount of effort it actually takes to get anything done, because I didn't understand that. Like if, you make one sales call and somebody doesn't pick up and you feel like you're going to die, until you realize that you need to make 100 to make that sale. Like, you know what I mean? So like, that's a big deal. And another one is called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. And Cal talks about like finding something you're good at and getting better and better and better at that until it becomes effortless. And when you get to kind of that area, that's where you become passionate. But I think a lot of times people put the cart before the horse and they want to be passionate before they do something. So those are the two I would say are like pivotal. But now, like, I don't know, man, like I read a lot of biographies now. So like, you know, I'm finishing this one, Washington, about George Washington. My next book I have lined up that I already got is called Grant, about U.S. Grant. Or what else do we have here? I read a book about Sam Walton from Walmart. I also like a lot of like sports books too, because I think those are very, very applicable to like life. Yeah. So I read a book about Mariano Rivera, the Hall of Fame closer for the Yankees, which was kind of interesting. I read a book about Bill Belichick, the Patriots coach. And just to get into that guy's head is insane. I read a book called The Captain about Derek Jeter. So I'm always interested in like, I think sports is very, very applicable to life. So I'm reading a lot of that and also tons of biographies, man.
Yeah. John Wooden has a really good book too. I listened to the sample and I was just like, man, let me put that on my list. But yeah, man, I'll nerd out on books all day long and talking about that. But as far as like the entrepreneur spirit, because on Leaders Lead, we've made a focus, like a strategic focus to address some of the issues in the entrepreneur life, to dispel some of the myths. What would you think is the biggest line of crap that you've ever heard when it comes to entrepreneur? And give me the real deal as far as like that goes against it. I know that's a crazy question, but
you'll find your purpose and you'll never work a day in your life. Now, here's what it's all about, Tony. Screw up for 10 years, find a couple things you're good at along the way, commit to one of them, and it'll work. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's like, I'm going to find my purpose and it's like, it's going to be so great. Like, no, you're going to try 100 things. You're going to fail at 99 of them. One of them's going to work out and you're going to learn 1% of a thing from each one of those 99s you failed at. It's the honest to goodness truth, man. It's about work year after year after year, not like that's the thing. And there we go. Like, I'm sure there's some people that are like that, right? Like, you know, Michael Phelps one day was like, I'm going to be a great swimmer. And he did it. You know what I mean? But still he practiced for years. Or, you know, like, Charles Woodson's like, I'm going to hit people so hard that they can't even get up once I tackle them. Like, okay, cool. But like, it takes practice, right? So at the same time, Allen Iverson was wrong, man.
Yeah.
It's always a game. It's not practice.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I agree. That's funny you say that.
I'm talking about the Allen Iverson one. We're talking about practice, man. Practice? Not a game. Practice.
Yeah, you bring me to a commercial. No, we have Speak University, and inside of Speak University, in one of the modules, I have a clip of me, because I say practice over and over again. Yep. And then we brought up that clip of Allen Iverson saying, practice? Like, what? It's so crazy because a lot of people, they feel like they're going to be really good at it. I listened to episode 1 of my very first podcast, and it was freaking horrible.
Dude, I can't listen to my episode 1. It makes me cringe.
Yeah. And then when you hear somebody say, I'm pretty sure I've heard somebody say to you before, man, you're such a good interviewer and good interviewee. Or have you ever had anybody say that you're a natural?
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, I've done 1,000 episodes. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of practice. Like 200, I was terrible. 300, I sucked a little bit less. 400, we're getting somewhere. 500, okay, I think we're getting pretty good. Like, yeah, but it's because you kind of learn like the cues, right? Okay, like, this person's getting a little quieter. I can feel like there's something there. Or, like, what's a really good follow-up question? Or like you learn how to kind of bring a story back around. Like, there's a lot of skills you learn by doing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love the way you do it. I think I saw when you interviewed Grant Cardone. I study not just the person that's being interviewed, because 9 times out of 10, you've seen that person on a different platform before. Sure. But I studied you, and I was curious about there's an interview with you and Grant Cardone. I think I might have saw it on his page, but it was just facing him instead of you two. Was that by design?
No. I've only been a video show for like 2 years because I hated myself on camera for the longest time. So he recorded himself. He recorded himself, man. He recorded himself, and I was like, I'm the audio only voice in the background because my podcast is audio only. And then he's like, well, you can have the video on my side. I'm like, sure.
Dude, I love that. I would have never known. I was asking my partner. I was like, I wonder why they did it. I wonder why they did it that way. That's such a big platform. But that goes to show
But that was episode 154, man. So that was like, we've replayed it a couple times, but like that was episode 154. So like, at that point in time, like I was like doing interviews in the dining room of a house I was renting at the time. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't, I'm in a studio booth that I built now. Like this, it's the world is very different,
Yes, man. I love that. There was, I love that. That is so good. I'm glad that you said that because we all feel like when we get, I'm not going to say we all, because that's a very general statement where at least I know for me, I felt like I needed all the freaking things. I needed everything to be perfect. Everything needed to be aligned. But there you are, you're rolling. You had that piece of content and it's been able to, I'm sure to help you out a lot, but I'm sure if you can go back, which I'm pretty sure you can, you would have did it all over again. But
I would have done video from day one, man. I still could have gotten away with people don't know if I'm wearing pants or not, since we only do it from like the chest up. But at the same time, like, that's a joke, by the way. I was always wearing pants in every podcast. But like at the same time, like I would have done video from day one. Like we've been pushing really hard on YouTube for like the last year. And, we've went from, I didn't really do anything on YouTube. And then like my people on my team are like, why aren't we doing anything on YouTube? Right. So like, we've been pushing hard since January 1st and we've went from, like 100 subscribers to, like 4,200 subscribers now on YouTube. And it's like, I wish I was doing this day one because like, those are things that do move the brand forward and we just weren't doing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize that. What I did, and I followed advice of other people in the game. So everybody's listening and watching this, like, please pay attention. I listened to the other knuckleheads in the game and they're like, dude, just focus on just the podcast. Don't worry about the video. And then it seems like everybody else that I talked to after that are successful in podcasting, they're doing video. So did that boost
the game
your actual
changed
podcast for you? It did?
When I started doing video in 2019, dude, like it changed the game. Like I've done well before that, right? I had a great audio only podcast. I felt like I was running a radio show. Like I really enjoyed it, but like it changed the game doing video because people are much more visual now because of how our media is consumed than they are like audio, right? So it's like, a lot of times you'll see people watching videos with the audio off and the captions on, right? It's how my brother-in-law watches Netflix, which I think is insane to me. But it's definitely weird. Trust me. But at the same time, like that's how people consume content, and they have for like the last 3 to 5 years. So yeah, we grew. We had like 1 million downloads our first couple years in, which is great. But at the same time, like it could have probably been 10 times that if we had started earlier on. Because when I started, man, there were 240,000 podcasts. There's 3 million now. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like the game has definitely changed. And it's hindsight's 2020, right? So it's like, had I started what I'm doing now, then the game would be totally different, right?
Wow. But at least you're doing it. What was a good strategy that you're like, because I know it wasn't easy to switch over, right? Or was it seamless?
It wasn't easy initially because at the same time, like the thing that's tough about video is you do need like a decent setup. Like you got a solid setup over there, man. So like that looks awesome. But like,
thank you. I appreciate that.
You need a decent camera. You need like decent stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like your camera on your computer most of the time isn't going to cut it. Like you do need a webcam or, a DSLR or something like that. Like, cause you do want to look like valuable enough. So like at the same time, like those things that are stops for video are legitimate stops. So it's like, you got to figure out ways to work around that. Like, you can use your phone as a webcam if there's like apps you can get for that to make them talk to you. So there's ways around it. So you just got to get creative. But like having some of the right setups for video does really matter.
Wow. That's good. Cause I see, even looking at my own old content, I'm like, man, what the heck was I thinking? That looks like trash. What about the folks that they can't necessarily afford anything? Would you tell them Do you think that they should just wait until they get that stuff, or should they?
Here's what I would say. Like most people, either they have an iPhone, they have an Android, they have something like that. You know, there's an app, and I forget what the heck it's called, so they're gonna have to Google it. But there's an app. You get it on your computer and you get it on your phone, and you can turn you can turn your phone. Just make sure you put on Do Not Disturb, or it's gonna shut the video off. Where you can use your phone then as the webcam for your computer. That's still gonna be better than because most. So I'm on a brand new MacBook Pro, but the video camera on it is still only like 720p. That's really low.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like a basic webcam's 1080p, which is pretty solid. So like even using like your phone would be better if you can figure out how to do that. So it's like you don't have to go crazy, man. We have enough of the technology we need to make it work, and even using like apps like this, like StreamYard and stuff like that. Like you can kind of cut the learning curve on a lot of ways, because people are like, oh, well, video is really hard to edit. Well, if you use StreamYard, it'll put it together for you. You know what I mean? Like there's things you can do to get around some of the things you're going to run into. But I would say like getting started with video faster is going to make more sense.
Well, I love that. That was one thing we had, Evan Carmichael on the show not too long ago. And, he gave me a verbal beatdown because I have a YouTube, but I dropped the ball on it, and he was just like, nope, dude, start posting videos every day. And now we're gearing up to do that, because it's the very first thing that I go to when I want to learn how to do something, and it makes sense, man. It makes so much sense.
I don't know. I just type things in Google, like, how do I insert phrase here? You know what I mean? Like and Google usually answers my questions, but I agree. Like I have to do the brakes on my Volkswagen this weekend. So I'll be going on YouTube and figuring out, I haven't done them on this car before. Like, how do I do brakes on my Volkswagen Tiguan? It's going to be fun.
Wow. I learned how to drive a stick about 10 years ago. Me and my wife, we went to go pick up this car. Yeah. And I look at it. No, it wasn't 10 years. It was long. It was about 12 years ago. I'm looking at the phone while we're on the way on the highway. She's like, what are you doing, hon? And I'm like,
that is probably not safe.
I'm like, I'm learning how to drive. She was driving.
Oh, okay. He's driving. He's like, hold on. I'm learning how to drive. I'm learning how to do a stick. I hope I don't stall the clutch right now.
I know, right? She's taking me to go pick it up. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm learning how to drive a stick. And she, oh my God. But it worked. There's a video.
Dude, how bad did you burn the clutch the first few times though, man?
Dude, I think it stalled out. Like I got to a hill, it freaking stalled out. Everybody started looking at me, and I'm like, I start freaking sweating. But then I'm
clutch like, and turn the key. We're good to go.
Yeah, I made it home, man, and I was good. It reminded me kind of like entrepreneurship, where everybody's looking at you like you're freaking crazy, but they've all been there. If people that are just getting into it and they're talking to people that have been in it for a while, man, everybody have their bumps and bruises. I was going to ask you, what would you say, like during your entrepreneur journey, was the hardest thing for you to overcome?
Well, I'll say to those bumps and bruises, man, like one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got. I got it out of a book. I don't remember what the heck the book was called at this point, but the article was called "The Code of Honor" by L. Ron Hubbard, and he talks about like not to seek to be liked or admired, because when you do that, you're going to make decisions based on being liked and admired, right? So it's like, yeah, it may look ugly now. I'm cool with being ugly. I'm going to work through it. Like, I don't care what people think based on what it looks like, right? You know, if I'm running around with a chicken suit on, who cares? But like at the same time, like you've got to work through the ugly to get to the nice. And I think so many times we're like, oh, what are my parents going to think? What are my friends going to think? What are my, people I went to school with going to think? And, here's the thing you got to think about, man. You can't live your life for people that wouldn't die for you, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I went past your question though, but I had to add that.
No, that's so good, because I mean, that's what, as I feel like, is one of the biggest obstacles in entrepreneurship and leadership in the corporate world. You got people that are, work that in senior positions and they can't get over that hump, or they're trying to get to that position. But the reason why is because they're following the crowd. I mean, if you look on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my biggest freaking audience that we have. Yeah. But all of these you look at LinkedIn, I'm just tired of it, man, because it seems like everybody is like copying and pasting each other's posts. And if you go on Reddit, you can see it. But the minute you hit them with how you really feel, then that's when you started to make a difference. What were you about to say?
Those direct messages too on LinkedIn. It's like, it's like, so hello, Tony, I know we just met, but let's get married. Wait, what? Like that's every person direct messaging you on LinkedIn. It's like the single longest proposal known to man. And it's like, and then I'm supposed to want to buy your stuff at the end. It's like, I literally just met you. At least take me to dinner first. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, dude, that's so funny, man. I hope it's not too far down, man. Where is it? I would have to send it. I'm gonna have to send it to you. But man, I got this message on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And she asked me like, how was my investing and my financial portfolio for the show and just like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I wrote her back, and it pisses my wife off because I have fun with it. I wrote her back.
Oh, no, dude, I'm the same way. Trust me. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. I got
a good one for you after you're done here.
No, I want to hear it, dude. I said, hi, are you married? Where do you work? Where's your address? And I said, wait, don't report me yet. I'm going someplace for a reason. And then I listed off all these different weird questions. And I was like, that's exactly what you did to me. And then she blocked me and I was like, thank God. But yeah.
Now here's my favorite one. So somebody messages me and they go, we help people to start podcasts. Do you know anyone that needs to start a podcast? I'm like, what's a podcast? Nope. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, and it's like,
my wife
do your
gets
research.
So mad at me. She's like, stop being a jerk. I'm like, but it's like 1 second of like looking at somebody's profile would make you feel like less of an idiot.
And that's how you know it's automated. I know you got to go. What do you think is the best way to market a service or market a podcast so that these folks, they can stop doing this, man?
Well, I frankly, they got to do the hard work of building an audience, right? So it's like, it's having number one, a different reason people are going to come to you, right? Like, what are they going to get from you versus they get from nobody else, right? I think that's a really, really important thing, because I think often there's a branding guy that I'm super good friends with, which I should introduce you guys if you're interested in branding. But he talks about the idea of, if you're not differentiating from other people in your category, you're actually promoting your category, right? So like the best example of that is like the only one ever to differentiate was Xerox. So what do people call every copy machine for like 15 years? A Xerox machine, right? So it's like, it's the same thing with a podcast, man. Like if you don't differentiate, you're promoting podcasts, not like Tony's podcast or Leaders Lead. Like you're not promoting those things. So when you differentiate, they're like, boom, I know exactly what I'm getting here. Sure, there's other podcasts, but I really don't care. I want this one. So like, I think that's really, really vitally important if you want to market it, is differentiating. But the other thing too is having a place where your community can go. You know, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's you always should be building your email list, right? Because any one of these platforms could shut you down. So it's like you need to have an email list. But, for me, we've been doing a Telegram group for a couple of years, and that's been pretty good for us because it's kind of a newer way people can consume your content and stuff like that. But you want to have a place your community can gather to get information from you. They can get outside of the show and stuff. So like you need to build community if you really want to succeed.
Oh, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful because the algorithm, I remember the last few years for LinkedIn when I was so mad when Gary Vaynerchuk started telling people to go on LinkedIn. I'm like, stop telling.
Dude, it was like really good for like a year though, man. It was like really, really good. Like you could post like emojis of like poop and like people would like hundreds of likes. And now it's like, you can't get like anywhere near as much action.
Oh my God, you ain't lying, man. We went from 1 year having, I think like 4 or 5 videos that got over 3 million each. Yeah. And then now I can post some stuff and they get 25. And I'm just like I'm talking about 25 people. Yeah. And it's just like, man, dude, that sucks. But anyway, man, I can sit and talk to you. I know that you're busy.
Yeah, dude, this is a lot of fun, man. We kind of just been, shooting the SHIT, but we're shooting the crap here. We've been shooting the shit here, man, but I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, no, there's no kids getting into entrepreneurship that I know of. We always market.
They should be.
But they should be, right? If we're doing a good job, right? No, man, I love your hustle, man. I love watching you. It seems like, what I like to start doing is I go from the very, very beginning of the trail of people's videos, of people's like content. And I literally, within the last few months, have looked at your material and just watch you grow over the years. And then when I got to the last video that you posted or the last podcast, or seen you in Forbes and all of this different stuff that you did. And I'm just like, whoa, that is so freaking cool and so inspiring you. And I know that our guests, our viewers, they're going to feel the same way, man. How can they reach you?
Yeah, well, if they want to check me out, they can just head over to jeremyryanslate.com, or I'm Jeremy Ryan Slate on literally every platform you could imagine. Because my parents named me after an actor named Jeremy Slate, which they didn't know there'd be in all their wisdom in the 80s, there'd be such a thing called Google. And I couldn't get found my first couple of years online. So that's why I used 3 names. I am not a serial killer. I am Jeremy Ryan Slate.
That's good.
People that have 3 names have usually committed a crime of some kind, but I have not. I'm just trying to differentiate from somebody else, man.
I never thought about that, man. You ain't lying.
Yeah, like John Lee Hinckley. Oh, he shot Reagan. They always have a middle name when they've done something wrong.
Yeah, man.
It's like the country's yelling at them like their mom.
Yeah. But I need to. It's funny. Yeah, I know, right? You asshole.
John Lee Hinckley, you get over here.
And that's interesting because every time, man, and I think it's important, like what you just said, and we'll close here in a minute. I think that is really freaking important to be able to rank high in your name. And the last few years, man, that's what I've been doing. But, Tony Taylor, some of my boxing stuff will come up, but then some of the podcast stuff will come up, but then freaking you'll see like a baseball player. And it's just like, I don't want people to look me up and see an obituary or stuff like that. But that's really good game for y'all that are listening and watching this. Figure out a way to set yourself apart. Connect with Jeremy. Jeremy is such an amazing dude in this space. And I know that you got please tell me you got some training or anything like that. How can we connect with you even further?
Well, I have put together a really great resource for your audience called the 7 Reasons You're Not Getting Featured in Your Favorite Podcasts. And it's like some of the best basic PR you can learn to really get your business out there. And I guarantee you there's a bunch of them that people aren't doing. But if you do them, it's really going to put you ahead. So you can get that over at crushitonpodcast.com. That's crushitonpodcast.com. And with or without the S will work. We own both URLs.
That's so smart. Ooh, that's a show within itself. And will you do me a favor and take us out? I've never did this before, man, but I feel so comfortable with you on the show. Will you take us out?
Yeah. All right. Thanks for hanging out today, everybody, with Tony and myself. And go out there and take some action, guys. Let's get it done. Okay.